Yeah, Trinos.
Indiscriminate dumping of solid waste in our cities. And I'd want to say it is very, very imperative for not only governments, by governments I mean be it national or local governments, but also private companies, individuals, to be really concerned about the state of our cities, especially in as far as municipal solid waste management is concerned. I was watching today news about China, and there were indications that yesterday aircrafts were grounded in China because of air pollution, and that's not the first incident. Before there was smog in China, that was in a way forcing people really to find some alternative ways of surviving in the cities, and they end up spraying to try and disperse the smog in the cities. And it's very unfortunate that some of these big nations, even say like the US, have not been willing to ratify and be part of the solutions to mitigate some of these problems. And if you consider, especially the level of pollution in most cities of the world, you realize that even in cities where we have maybe high productive, levels, such as China, Japan, that's where we have most of these problems. But they seem to be concerned much on economic development, issues of productivity, issues of GNP, GDP, without considering the other critical elements of development. And that, in a way, brings us to setting the scene of today's presentation. I would want to say that it is very, very imperative for everyone to be part of this exercise. And I would want to, in a way, start by defining sustainable development as a conscious and voluntary decision to live a selfless and responsible life. This is my definition. And I borrowed this statement from AIDS, HIV campaigns or awareness raising. And I would want to challenge you guys to say, sustainable development begins with you. Sustainable development begins with me, and it begins with all of us. And funny enough, even in South Africa, where we say it is the biggest economy in Africa, and like I'm going to show, already almost 2/3 of the South African population live in cities, and that's a fact. You realize that there are people who are learned or who are educated, really we meet every day, who seem not to be conscious about the environment. I don't know. Are you playing your part as a driver, as a pedestrian, as maybe at homes? Do you really, in a way, hold on to litter or garbage or whatever you would have maybe generated through various activities during the day, to throw it in the next litter bin, or you just throw anyhow? Do we practice that? Because sometimes I use metro rail. These guys who sell ground nuts, they try their level best. Whenever they sell, they give a plastic. But us who will be buying and eating, we just, after eating, we just throw. There's this mentality to say there is someone who is supposed to be concerned about solid waste management. Why? Is it the city of Tswane that should be concerned about solid waste management? Or it's everyone's business? So I'd want to say again, it is both a means, sustainable development is both a means to an end. In other words, we're saying it is a verb. It is a process of development. In other words, as we aim to get to a certain point, are we doing the right thing? So in other words, we're saying, let's be concerned about the various activities that we engage in every day, and make sure that we strive to achieve this desired end, which becomes a noun. So in other words, we're saying we are aiming towards some certain point. We say we would want to be sustainably developed as a continent or as the globe. However, the Brundtland Commission in 1987 gave this definition we sometimes refer to as, in our sustainable development discourse or debates, we would say that's our Psalms 23. Yeah. That's our Psalms 23, the common verse that should be known by everyone. So in other words, we're saying we should be concerned about our needs, but bearing in mind that, yes, we have needs, but how about the resources? The resources are finite. In other words, they are limited. That brings us to the economic concept, or the basic economic problem. What does it say? The basic economic problem says, yes, or it observes that we have wants, but we will never be able to meet all the wants. And what then it means is we have to make choices, and let's make the right choices. And if I'm to explain further on that, this, in a way, forces us to end up having a production possibilities curve. We're saying you are given resources and you would want to produce a certain maybe amount of commodities or provide services. So how best can we combine the various resources we have so that at the end of the day, we strike this balance? So we need this balanced state of affairs where we have desirable economic, environmental, and social development in our continent. For example, would you in a way enjoy life in China where you can't even breathe? There is smog everywhere. Someone has to come and spray to disperse the smog. Would you? Yes, GDP is high. Yes, GNP is high. Yes, you have lots of money. But now we want to live for a conference in the US, but flights are grounded because of air pollution. In other words, saying we are just concerned about economic development without also stopping to think about environmental, the quality of the environment. So, in other words, I'm saying all things should work together for the common good of humanity and planet Earth. That's my introduction. And this is just to show the three pillars of sustainable development we have. We're saying we should be concerned about the health status of the environment. To what extent is the environment healthy? And here we're talking about air, land, water, pollution issues, and social justice as well. We're saying you can never, ever enjoy life where you have a, should I say, we have islands of prosperity or islands of wealth, but surrounded by seas of poverty. In other words, we're saying we have glaring inequalities. What would they do? This reminds me of, should we say maybe there are social movements or resistance in Cape Town there, where they were saying, hey, let's pour this poop in on the international airport. Isn't Cape Town International Airport? Would you enjoy it? This is someone who is demonstrating to say, hey, you are enjoying and I'm not enjoying. I've never used a plane before. Why don't you listen to me? Of course, we are not supporting it, but we are saying this is reality. It is happening every day. So let's have a situation where we try and reduce the gaps between the rich and the poor, so that at the end of the day, we can enjoy our riches. Because as long as next door someone who is complaining, whatever, they engage in these social movements, and the world over, it's well documented about these social movements. Economic growth as well. We can never prosper if we don't consider the level of economic development in our country. So we should be seized, we should be concerned about this. So that's where the innovation concept comes in. So we need to have sustainable levels of economic development. And this brings me to the main concept of the day, municipal solid waste management. How best can we define municipal solid waste management? People normally consider it as rubbish. something that is thrown away, something that is useless. And some categorize it based on the source of generation, like commercial, households, markets, street sweepings, construction, demolition, debris. However, some authorities or authors, they go beyond that and categorizes according to the state of dryness or wetness. And when it's dry, they say issues or concepts such as or components such as paper, plastics, metal, glass, they fall under the dry category. Then also wood, yard, and food waste materials, they fall under the wet category. However, what is very, very interesting, like I mentioned before, is the various stakeholders that should be concerned or that should be involved in making sure that solid waste management is properly, in a way, managed. And we're saying, starting from the national government, local government, international organizations, also private companies, NGOs, individuals, also community-based organizations are seized with such issues. Not only that, we have quite a number of processes that are involved in making sure that we get to the desired goal. And we talk about these various streams of solid waste management, starting from where it is generated, the collection, the transfer, the treatment, recycling. Some, they even go to the point of talking about, can we try and reduce at source level? Let's try and reduce. I was also watching news today. They're saying this is it Tesco supermarket in the UK. They've been trying to follow the behavior of consumers to say, of the greens that are bought from Tesco, they were saying about 47% are thrown away. Of the, is it bread or something, about 20-something% is thrown away, something like that. So in other words, saying, can we try our level best and reduce the generation of waste at source level? How best can we do that? Then can we recover some of the waste? Can we reuse some of the waste before we just what? Discard. Then lastly, it's disposal. So I'm going to be talking about landfill size, this and that. But we're saying we should be, in a way, be very, very clear. Say, this whole thing starts from the source, and we always generate. Wherever we are, do we stop to think, say, this thing is not yet waste. I cannot just throw it away. All right. No research can survive without a problem statement. So I went out of my way to try and say, what is the problem here? I don't just want to be talking without having a problem that needs to be solved. So I said to myself, and this is, I saw a post yesterday about Yohan Mouton, who is the director of ADA. Yeah, this is his work. I passed through his hands. He was our director 2010, one of the products of the ADA, in Stellenbosch. So he talks about world one problem. In other words, I was saying we have everyday life problems, of which most of these problems we talk about, they fall under that. For example, we're saying it is a fact of life that solid waste is a cause of concern. Just like taxes, when you're working, you always pay tax, isn't it? So it's a fact of life. It's indisputable. You can't dispute it. Yes, especially what Charles raised. It is intertwined with these two processes of urbanization and industrialization, where we have large quantities of solid waste being generated in cities. And these two processes have also led to high demand in the consumption of energy sources. Not only serious problems as far as managing the waste that is generated, but also the energy sources. Because with urbanization, we have many people now living in urban areas. With industrialization, we have lots of economic activities that demand energy sources. And this is happening against the backdrop of what? Fossil fuels that are also dwindling, isn't it? So we should be seized by such kind of developments. And we also have high unemployment rates that are also attributable to urbanization rates. Also related to these problems are high pollution levels, air, land, and water. So you realize that we have an intricate or a web that is created and originating or coming from this concept of solid waste management. However, we are saying, as ISA, we don't really get involved in research for development. In other words, we don't do it the NGO way. The way we do it is we produce knowledge and we disseminate knowledge. So all these aspects I have raised, yes, they make the basis of our research, but we can only contribute on the world of science. That's what Yohane Mouton referred to as World 2 problem. So what is my World 2 problem, the world of science? I'm saying, can we have innovations? Can we have initiatives that can be developed or put on the table to help solve all these related problems up there I've mentioned? So my main research is concerned about the innovations, the initiatives that African cities can develop or put on the table to say, hey, we can do A, B, C to try and contain these 4 or 5 related problems emanating from solid waste management. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. And according to Dunn, there's a guy, William Dunn, who talks about policy analysis. A problem may seem to be clear, may seem to be something that you can easily, in a way, tackle, but until you get to the field or until you get grappled with it, that's when you realize that, no, this problem is bigger than what I thought. So I've been trying to, he talks about the issue set or issue definition or issue filtration. So I try to say, hey, this is the state of solid waste management in African cities. What are the pillars that, in a way, can be able to or can be used to, in a way, understand the state of municipal solid waste in these African cities? Then, now, again, going back to the 3 pillars of sustainable development, I looked at first the environmental. Yes, we have this indiscriminate dumping of waste, polluting land, air, and water. Yes, that's one component. But also, when it comes to social issues, there's poverty. People literally, or they coexist with litter in most of these African cities. And there are lots of various threats of disease outbreaks. Then economic, I looked at as well as the production consumption activities that are taking place in African cities. I think they also contribute to the generation of municipal solid waste. However, there's one component that was missing, and that's the thing that maybe this research is going to make new contributions even to the sustainable development framework itself. So the institutional framework is very, very important. That's the 4th. The institutional frameworks, especially, like I said, when I went out, I'm going to talk about it when I get to the research methodology. When I went out there, I just thought that, oh, there are only 3 issues, and I'm going to be grappling with those, and then I'll get answers to those issues. But I realized that there are also issues that we tend to overlook, issues that we don't consider, and maybe we just take them for granted, but they are very, very critical. Issues of institutional capacity. Say, organizations that have mandates to manage and waste and associated national and international regulatory and policy frameworks have great impact. And we need really to look at them closely and see how best we can, in a way, capacitate such institutions. Here, I just wanted to zoom in on what Charles was saying in as far as high urbanization rates are concerned in Africa. Then I was saying, especially when we look at what is obtaining in most of these African cities, we're saying, let's look at Burundi. And this is, let's just be referring on 2010. We're talking of only 11% of the population in Burundi that are in urban areas. But look at the insurmountable problems we have. We seem not to be having answers to the problems. Only 11% is currently living in urban centers in Burundi. Then also Kenya, where I did my research, only 22%. are living in urban areas. According to, this is the State of African Cities 2012 report. So only 22%. Then also, if you look at Malawi, the trend continues. I also wanted to look at Uganda. Uganda by 2010, that's 13%. Zambia and my country, Zimbabwe, 38%. But look at the problems we have back home. We can go for 3 days without water, but only 38%. Just imagine if the remaining, I mean, is it 60-something percent? 62%. If in the next 10 or 15 years, they are going to be coming to the urban centers, what's going to be the situation in our cities? And really, we need to be created by such kind of developments. And I was also looking at the urbanization rates in other countries, like, for example, Singapore is 100%, Hong Kong 100%. But what problems do they have? Nearly everyone is in cities in Hong Kong. Nearly everyone is in cities in Singapore. But do they have the same problems we have here in Africa? So those are some of the questions really we need to. And South Africa, like I said, it's about 61.7% of current urbanization rates. And like I said, really one has to go out there with something already. So this is the deductive or quantitative approach or paradigm. But normally, some they consider it as narrow and experimental. But I was saying, before you go out there, one would have, in a way, developed a proposal. You have research questions already. You have some hypothesis, something that can, in a way, give you direction. So in other words, they were saying, what innovations do we have? Then you go through the literature, and you can come up with some questions to guide you, some structured questions to guide you. But at the end of the day, you would need to say, all these issues I had in mind before coming here, are they confirmed? That's the confirmation or specific. Now, it becomes very specific to say, yes, like when I went to Durban, I said, yes, what I'd read, this is the thing. I can hold it. It's something that is tangible. There is energy generation from West. You get the point? But you don't only get that. You also get surprises. And where do you get surprises? You get surprises from the inductive or qualitative approach, where you're open-ended, where you want to explore, to say, what is really happening as far as solid waste management is concerned in African cities? You get your surprises. You go to Kenya, Nairobi, say, oh, Nairobi, really, Kenya is the strongest economy in East Africa. But you get to down to the reality, what is obtaining on the ground. Then that's where you start by observing. You don't really need to be clouded by your own understanding or maybe picture you have from some previous readings or interactions with people. You need to start from the specifics, the really things that are obtaining on the ground. Then you observe the patterns, then come up with a tentative hypothesis. Then that's where you get the theory. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, if I'm lucky, that's where I'm going to try and come up with a theory on institutional development, institutional capacity development in as far as African cities are concerned. So these are the two approaches. I used both, whereby I started with some specific issues, but at the same time, I also had an open mind to try and say, are there new things that I can learn from this field work? Then the theoretical framework. Again, you can never have a research project or say study where you just in a way start from nowhere. You need really to base your research from existing theories. And when I looked at it, I realized that this is basic research, yes, but it has to be informed by some theories or model or results. Even in pure science, there are some people who always talk about pure science, that's natural science, and social science and humanities, something like that. In every research, be it pure science or natural science, you need to start from somewhere. Someone would have done some experiments before. Then you say, can I take them to a certain level? So this is what I did to say, oh, in as far as municipal solid waste management is concerned, how best can I understand the interface between these three pillars, economic, social, and environmental pillars? Then I realized that using the complex systems theory or the systems dynamics or network theory, I can be able to link all this. Besides, the fact that we have various stakeholders that are involved in solid waste management, the collaborative planning theory or communicative participatory theory or model can help me understand, because everyone comes in to try and do their parts in making sure that we achieve the desired goal. So these interconnected components of municipal solid waste management should work collectively and interact to form a strong relationship with time. So as a way of maximizing utility, effectiveness, and efficiency, there's need really to maximize profit. We agreed. That is economic, the economic pillar. But at the same time, let's preserve the planet, that's the environmental capital. At the same time, let's make sure that people's needs are taken care of, and we don't have these glaring inequalities in societies that can also create other problems. As we solve one problem, we'll be creating other problems that at the end of the day won't be able to solve. So how do you achieve this? This is achieved by bringing everyone that matters on board to collaborate. So this is the collaborative planning theory or communicative or participatory. So in other words, there's nothing that is, it's non-linear, especially the complex systems theory. It's non-linear. Really, you have to, in a way, keep working until, and unfortunately, in real life situations, most of these, I don't know why, most of these disciplines or professions, they're not allowed to make mistakes and learn from mistakes, which is a big problem. Which is a big problem. Really, systems should be allowed to adjust and develop from there. So this is the diagram to show the complex systems I'm talking about. And let me start from game theory. Yeah, then under game theory, let me just give an example of prisoner's dilemma. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about the prisoner's dilemma. We're saying two prisoners, they are caged there, then I say, confess. If you don't, then this is the sentence. Your friend is going to confess. If you don't confess, then maximum sentence. Maybe you've heard that. Then you say, oh, so if I confess, it's 0. What if I confess, then this one, the other one doesn't confess, something like that. Then there's the middle, and also high sentence, middle, and 0, something like that. So in other words, we're saying, a good example, the practical part of it is, Frank is saying, oh, why should I be concerned about the environment? I just pollute anyhow. He has just eaten a banana he throws without, who cares? That's the prisoner's dilemma, isn't it? But I was saying, and the same, I think, for those who we have started rural development, there's also what is known as the tragedy of the commons. The tragedy of the commons, where you're saying, if you keep going there, you're overstocking and whatever, at the end of the day, especially in rural areas, you deplete the pastures and whatever. So what's going to be the next thing? So everyone has to what? In such situations, everyone has to comply. Everyone has to comply. If we are saying 5 heads, it should be 5 heads, so that we can maintain our pastures. It's the same with that. So the game theory is very, very interesting. I would challenge you guys just to read more about game theory. It's very interesting. It's very applicable in real life situations, ordinary things, game theory. Then the collective behavior, we move on to we would want really everyone, especially the social dynamics, we would want really everyone really to participate towards the common goal. And the same with networks. Because I'm saying this is a system of interconnected parts, so it has to, in a way, work towards the common or agreed goal. And the evolutionary adaptation, it's very, very, again, like I said, we would want really to make sure that our systems evolve with time, they adapt, and this applies very well in municipal solid waste management, because we have quite a lot of these components that come together, and they need really to work to have the desired goal. Then pattern formation. What is the pattern with time? Can we develop a pattern? Then the systems theory. It's unfortunate that Dr. Smilani is not around. That's his area of interest, systems dynamics. It's very, very interesting. Then nonlinear dynamics. So all these, they come really to explain the complexity of the system we are involved in. And in most things we study, we have such kind of a situation. We have gone beyond that dialectical situation where you would say, from one point you go to the next, something like that. No, things always go like, really, just like project management. You start from there, you get the idea, you refine it, you implement it, you do the evaluation, you go back and revise, something like that. So you keep going, learning in the process. So there's nothing that is linear where you say, from point A to point B, then you're done. All right. Coming to my research findings, Nairobi and eThekwini case studies. I did the research in phases. I started with Nairobi and went to eThekwini after that. But to tell you the truth, maybe I have to confess, I knew that there was no energy generation in Nairobi. But why did I go there? I wanted to learn how are the systems like. Because I knew that South Africa has the first CDM project in Africa. And these other countries, Senegal, have been trying, especially West Africa there, they've been trying, quite a number they've been trying. But in East Africa, they only maybe generate biogas from human waste at a smaller scale, not the way things are done here in eThekwini. eThekwini East is the first clean development mechanism. I'm going to explain the clean development mechanism thing. So, but when I went to even when I was developing my proposal, I even went to my director to say, hey, initially he wanted me to focus on Nairobi. I said, there's nothing there I'm going to learn. I would rather do a comparative study. And what activities are they involved in, the initiatives, the innovations, and where are they failing? If in South Africa they can do it. So in other words, we base on South Africa so that we can improve things in Africa. Normally, I think that's the way the model of ISA research. So I considered the solid waste streams from the first where it is generated to collection, transfer points, transportation routes, and final disposal sites. And I settled on about 6 landfill sites. By landfill sites, I would say, or disposal sites where we have the final dumping, that's the final dumping ground. So I looked at La Mercy, that's in eThekwini, and the first column is the disposal site, the second is city, the third is size, how big is it, then the fourth is the year opened, when was it opened, then the next one is year ending, when is it going to be closed, then deposits, rate per day, how many tons of waste do they receive per day, then the Weighbridge, do they have Weighbridge, do they have a fence, for example, because it's mandatory, it's a must that they were supposed to have, but in some situations you realize that they don't because of some challenges. Then is there any energy generation from waste? Then is there any leachate treatment? That also speaks to environmental management. The last leachate, I'm going to talk more about leachate, what is leachate and how is it treated. So I realized that there is this La Mercy that was opened 1980, but they only closed it 2006, immediately after they just started the energy generation because they couldn't get enough gas from the landfill site. Then the Marion Hill, eThekwini as well, opened in 1997, and they contemplate close it 2022. Then they received 700 tons a day. Yes, they have a Weighbridge. They are also generating energy on Marion Hill landfill site. Also, Bisasa Road, eThekwini as well, opened in 1980. They were supposed to close it this year, but they are trying to find ways of extending its life. That's the biggest so far in terms of the amount of waste that they receive. Then there's a Weighbridge, yes, they are generating energy. So there are 2 landfill sites where energy is being generated, Marion Hill and Bisasa Road. Then the Buffers Dry one, it is very new. That's where maybe I'm going to try and show the contrast and the challenges we face in African cities, especially as far as institutional development or capacity building is concerned. Buffers Dry is a recent development, and they bought it from Tonga. Is it Tonga Tihulet? These guys who are busy, who are into the business of growing sugarcane and in a way processing and making sugar. So the municipality bought it from that company in 2006, and this is the biggest, but they are still developing it, they're still constructing, and they say it's going to last maybe next 70 years, so 2076 by there. Then currently it's receiving very less 420 because it's far, 35 kilometers from the city center. It's very, very far. We went there, when we came back, we were very tired. It's very, very far. So they are considering to maybe use it when these other ones have closed. Then in Nairobi, there's only one that is designated, but it's not licensed. It's official, yes. It's designated because they have no choice. That's the 1980. It was opened in 1980, 26 hectares. It receives about 1,200 tons a day. They have a Weighbridge, yes, but there's no energy generation. There's no leachate treatment. Then there's one that's known as Mukuru. It's an informal one. It's owned by an individual. So that one, there's nothing there. We couldn't even get the amount of waste that are in a way deposited. This is just to show the map of Durban, and this is Marion Hill, and this is Buffalo's Drive. The one I said is very far, and this is Bisasa Road. We also have transfer stations. If I finish in time, like we have arranged, there's a colleague who is going to talk more about transportation through Skype. This is the map of Durban, like I've shown you. Maybe this one is, yeah, but it has lots of details. So this one will help. Yeah, the buffers dry. Where is it? Where is this thing? The buffers dry, the one that is up there. Then the toll gate south. Just to in a way zoom in. All right. And this is the map of Nairobi, just to show the two I talked about. The only one that is designated is this one. This is the Dandora one, and this is the Mukuru. And this is the airport. I'm just going to talk briefly about this. That's why we put the airport. Let me go back as well. Yeah. To show how maybe institutional capacity comes in, I also included this King Shaka International Airport with the Lames one that was closed, but they managed to open another one here. So I'm just going to refer to this. The relationship between landfill site and other uses that are critical. So it's the same here, where we're saying we have the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport here. Then we have the Mukuru, which is informal and not designated, not licensed, but they've been grappling, I think, for over a decade to have one here, and it's failing because of the Kenya Aviation Authority that is resisting. Here, just to show you the Weighbridges. The Weighbridge, this one is the Buffers Dry one. That's the eThekwini, and this is the Nairobi one. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to compare and contrast when things are like this. So this is something, you know, maybe you get to I would want you guys to appreciate what I went through. I'm faced with these two scenarios. This one, I don't know, if you are not African or whatever, you may think that maybe it's out of Africa. But if you have been there and you know that really in South Africa it's possible, like we've been to Cape Town, you wonder, are you still in Africa? You are in Durban, you wonder, are you still in Africa? Something like that. So this is the situation we have in eThekwini, and this is the situation we have in Nairobi. And if you consider the population levels, I think eThekwini is also 3.5 million and Nairobi also 3.5, thereabout million. And the economy is really, yes, South Africa is the largest economy, but I wouldn't want to believe that we can have such a situation. And this is the only designated and official dump site. And by Weighbridge, you are saying as vehicles enter, they have to make sure that they weigh the quantities here. They need to know the quantities. It's the same here. Let me just go to the next. This is the same situation, but now this one is Marion Hill in eThekwini. This one is still Nairobi, because we only have one dump site that is what? That is a Weighbridge. So you see, these are, I don't know how they get to separate the weight of these guys from it's common, yeah, because honestly, if you say it's 500, how about the weight of these guys? Were they honestly just get in the way they go, something like that? I don't know. Honestly, if you want to be honest, you wouldn't say it's 500 when there are 5-6 people there. Then say these guys are not waste. All right. Energy generation at landfill size. Then I had an opportunity to go and really view, get to know, to understand, to learn a lot at the landfill side. Starting with Marion Hill. This is Marion Hill landfill gas to electricity CDM project. And this is the inside of the control room where they'll be monitoring. These are computers where they're monitoring the levels of methane, the levels of the flare. Sometimes they just burn the gas. All right. So let me just give a brief background to this. Like I said, I was going to talk about the clean development mechanism. And this I would refer to the various, should I say, meetings that have been taking place. And as far as the environment, managing or maintaining the environment is concerned, starting from one that was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and where countries could not agree, especially the big ones like America. They said no ways, and they are still refusing to be part of these maybe agreements. And to the COP3 of 1997 that was held in Kyoto in Japan there, where of course some developed countries, mostly from Europe, agreed to say, hey, we need to reduce the levels of emissions in the atmosphere. And South Africa only signed in 2005 when it was reopened. In 1997, they were given a period of 2 years, 97, 98, 90, and then it was closed, say, we have closed the signing, whatever, the ratification. And when they reopened in 2004, South Africa ratified, signed in 2005. So it's part of this agreement to say, let's reduce the levels of emissions in the atmosphere. Then after that, so the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is very, very critical, and the Clean Development Mechanism project, because they say, hey, we have agreed that, and we have realized that we are polluting the environment. We should do something to try and reduce this. And how do we do it? And they're saying those who are in developed countries and they can afford, they need to support those in the developing countries. How? They're saying if ever there's a project, there's what they call the prototype carbon fund, and they buy the credits, the carbon credits. In other words, if eThekwini burns, say methane, then they receive some money through the certified emission reductions. So that's why I showed you the control room where they'll be monitoring and making the readings to say, how much are we in a way burning, something like that. And these CERs are calculated in tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So it's known as tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And maybe one thing to mention there is, they say methane at every landfill site, even the Nairobi one I showed you, methane gas is always emitted. At every, whether there's energy generation, there's whatever, at every landfill site. I'm sure for those who know very well biodegradation processes, they will know the anaerobic digestion that will be taking place, and mostly of organic matter. So we're saying methane gas mostly is 60%, while its carbon dioxide is 40%. So they would say this methane gas is 21 times, in a way, likely to pollute the environment as compared to carbon dioxide. So, but they say it ranges from 21 to 27, but they use the figure of 21. So you would rather burn methane gas so that we reduce emissions, because one CER is equivalent to 21 or units of carbon dioxide. That's why they burn. Sometimes they just burn without even generating energy. So in eThekwini, they managed to, in a way, convince, because there are lots of processes that are involved, like you have to apply for the environmental impact assessment, you have to get approval from quite a number of organizations, and there are always appeals, because some people, those who are well informed and whatever, they'll say, no, how come you guys would want to come here and start generating energy? You are going to make the situation worse, something like that. So after several appeals, after several applications, it was approved and commissioned in 2006. And The Lames one was in a way generating about 0.5 megawatts, but however, like I said, they couldn't get to that because of low levels of gas. Then the Marian one has always been generating 1 megawatt of electricity. And they have installed about 13 vertical and horizontal gas pipes, and they also a flare system because they don't want to suffocate the engines. Then gas generators and equipment, they were in a way installed to the tune of 15 million. It's very, very expensive. The project is very, very expensive. And the second component, that is the Bisasa project, was set up and it started operating in 2008, and it gobbled about, say, 22 million. That's a lot of money. And all in all, the total cost of the project was 114 million. It's very expensive. And the operating cost every year is 12 million. And the finances came from the Department of Trade and Industry, what they call the Critical Infrastructure Program, and also the Department of Minerals and Energy, and a loan from the French Development Bank. So this is where they got their monies. But you don't just get a loan. It means already you have the capacity to pay back, isn't it? And the fact that we have these departments, South African departments, that are supporting it means really there's something there. So let me just show you the first one. This one, this is known as a riser. We have risers, we have vertical wells, we have horizontal wells. This is the vertical well that in a way extracts gas from the landfill. And these are the pipes that take the gas to the plant. This is the plant, and this is one of the engines that are used. At Bisasa, there are about 6 engines. These are the engines. There are about 6 engines. Then this is the control. This is where they do the cooling of the gas before it gets to the engine, so that they don't damage the engines. It has to be cooled first before you take it there. And this is where they monitor. Let me just refer to this. This is the level of methane gas. Like I said, methane gas is 60% for the gas that is in a way emitted at landfill site, 60%. But in this case, because these are machines and whatever, it is 56.7. And this is the flaring. They will be burning. They don't want to, in a way, take all the gases to the engine so that they suffocate. There's engine efficiency. So part of the gas is just what? It's flared. They are just burn it because it cannot be, in a way, converted into electricity. And this is what, this is the current CER I was talking about, the certified emission reductions. And this is where they do the step up. If you know, it's just like with even hydroelectric, you need to step up this, where we have the turbines, then it is converted into energy. So they step up from 400 volts, this is a transformer, 400 volts to 11 kV, and the 11 kV is the one that is connected to the eThekwini grid, the electricity grid. And this is the flaring, that's where they burn the excess gas. It's burnt, yeah, that's where they burn it. All right, this is just to show the area of view of the Bisasa landfill site. This is the control room, and these are the engines, and this is the flaring of it. And believe me, this is the landfill site. And below this green, there is waste there. So in other words, they are trying to improve things. Not, I will show you some other situation. You wouldn't believe that there is waste there. Waste was dammed, then they tried to change the environment like that. Yeah, let me just explain. This is the landfill site. This process is, oh, what's the problem? I'm failing to. Let me go back a bit. Yeah. This is the landfill site, and these are the vertical gases, the vertical wells I've been talking about. So what do? There is a blower inside. They create low pressure inside the wells so that the gas moves from the west. It gets into the pipes. Then it is taken down. Then we get here, oil and gas pump and flare. Excess gas is being burnt here. That's destruction of methane, CH4. Then the generation of electricity, the amount they can in a way divert, in a way take to the engines, they in a way make sure that it gets processed to generate electricity, the landfill gas engine and electricity generator, then the step-up transformer, this is the step-up transformer, then supply to municipal, this is supplied to municipal electricity grid. So this is the transformer, then this one, then it connects to the households. So what are the economic outcomes of this project? To date, only Bisasa Road and Marian Hill generate a total of 7.5 megawatts of electricity. It is currently supplied to 3,750 houses in the city. About 500 houses pay 1 megawatt. Then money generated from selling electricity as well. They also generate money from that, and they sell at $0.019 per kilowatt to the municipality, but at 0.047 kilowatt to private consumers. The project has also generated 48 million through the selling of certified carbon credits I talked about, the CERs, because they have to be in a way monitored, then they measure, they whatever, all those. The project is also estimated to generate a total of 400 million during its life. So that's a lot. Then environmental outcomes. There is a reduction of gas emissions in the atmosphere. Special component 1, always 16,000 carbon emissions reductions every year. Then component 2, 218,000 carbon emissions reductions every year. And to date, they have managed to generate in excess of 600,000 carbon credits. So in other words, they claim those 600,000, they claim through the prototype fund I talked about. Then methane gas, like I said, has 21 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide. That's why I say, let's ban methane gas, because if you release it in the atmosphere, it's going to pollute the environment. So whoever is going to ban methane gas is going to be paid by these developed countries. That's how the thing works, the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change. Also, there's conservancy and plant rescue units at landfill sites. There's also leachate treatments at 2 landfill sites, which help to reduce contamination of land and also underground water. Water purification that is recycled and used to irrigate plants at the sites. Like I said, I talked about a system or complex system. Really, there's a lot that happens at the landfill site. So this is the leachate treatment plant. In other words, it's the wastewater that comes from the landfill side. They take it there, they pump it there, then they introduce active bacteria to feed on that. So during that process, as active bacteria feed on it will be considering it as food. As it feeds on that, then it will be reducing in a way, degrading in a way, reducing the harmful substances within that leachate. This is one at Buffalo's Dry, and this is one at Marian Hill. This one, it processes about 50 cubic meters of leachate. This one about 200 cubic meters of leachate. So after that, then it's taken to the reed bed. This is known as the reed bed. Then what these plants do is like they utilize the food that is still left within that water, and in the process purifying it, and it gets to this point where it's taken for other purposes. Sometimes they use it just to spray on their roads so that no dust will in a way come out of that. And this is the processes. So leachate will be in this state, then it's taken to those treatment plants. Then by the time they leave the plant, they'll be like this. Then it's taken to the reed bed. By the time they leave the reed bed, it will be this clean. So you see, if you leave leachate, this wastewater, just to flow, it contaminates the whole system, land, water, all those. Then the conservancy, there is a conservancy that is even registered by the South African government at Marian Hill. This is what they do. This is a landfill site. You can see here, this is west up here. So they have such projects. Here they also, in a way, rescue some plants whenever they are depositing waste on some places, and they transplant these to some areas. For example, here, this is part of the wastewater that has been purified and it's being used to irrigate these places. It's still the landfill site. Here, you wouldn't believe that there is waste here. There is waste below this, but they've rehabilitated this space. So how about the social outcomes? The standard of living of the urban poor situated around Bisasa Road, for example, has been changed through they've managed to create employment during construction. For example, 57 unskilled, 38 semi-skilled, 11 skilled. At project inception, about 14 skilled associates were employed. Also, educational support to previously disadvantaged black students. About 3 male students were given bursaries and 1 female black student to study civil engineering at the UKZN. Then there's also improved air quality. They also benefit from that. Also, it improves their standard of living. Then recycling of materials at some of these, but it's so controlled because they have gates, they have fences, all that. So it's so controlled. They say they have to be registered. If they are 50, only 50 are allowed to get in and do that. Then also we have recycling at Dandora in Nairobi that employs about or more than 4,000 families, and I'm sure you'll be able to see. Then we have also initiatives in managing municipal solid waste, and here I just wanted to point to the various acts we have. For example, we talk about by 2030, also South Africa, and just like Nairobi, just like Kenya, they would want to be middle income countries by 2030. So in Nairobi, they also have what they call the Environmental Management and Coordination Act that they use to do such kind of activities. And they also have the Environmental Management and Coordination Regulation of 2006. And they also have the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA. What does it do? It licenses recycling facilities that specialize in scrap metal, plastics, polythene, waste paper. To date, the following recyclers have been licensed: scrap metal 12, plastics 5, polythene 2, waste paper 4. Just to show you, this is controlled recycling activities, scavenging, if you want, at Bisasa, that's eThekwini. And this is the surrounding communities I talked about. This is these guys really, they are benefiting a lot from this Bisasa landfill site. And this is Nairobi. There's a lot of scavenging here, like I told you. These beds are known as, they say they are known as marabu stock. That they are also part of the reason why the Kenya Aviation Authority is refusing to relocate the dumping site from Dandora to Ruai, close to the airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. But from the way I have seen how landfill sites are managed in South Africa, I don't think we will have this problem. But I don't know how best we can go about it, because if these things are well managed and there are such kind of setups, I don't think really we'll have such kind of, but that's what they believe. Then this is at Marine Hill. They also, in a way, encourage people to recycle, to separate a waste at source. And if you bring your waste separated, you just come and drop here, you don't pay. Mind you, I didn't tell you about the payment charges. Like in Dandora, they pay like 1,000 Kenyan shillings per I think is per the whole vehicle, 1,000 Kenyan shillings. But in South Africa, they charge per kg. So if you bring your waste and it's separated for recycling, then you just drop it here, then you go back, you don't even pay. But if it's not recycled, you continue. This is just before the disposal point. So you continue to go and dump there, then you pay for it. And this is scavenging. You see how even such young people get involved. This is an informal landfill site. Look at the age differences, but they're all scavenging. They are fighting for whatever little they can get from the West. And maybe we are as residents, we are partly to blame, because if they know that with time that we don't mix these things, there's nothing there, then it means that they won't really need to go there and scavenge. But the problem is, like, whilst maybe governments or international organizations are saying, let's try and separate its source and make sure whatever goes to the dump site is no value, and no one will go there to try and, in a way, and scavenge or, in a way, get something out of it. So the situation is really, it's a sorry state. So there are also lots of initiatives where they, like I talked about collaborative, all right, collaborative planning framework. So there are lots of initiatives where we have local international players who participate in the management of municipal solid waste. And they license, for example, in Nairobi, private companies, community-based organizations to participate in that. And today there are about 64 private service providers in Nairobi, 34 contractors. Yeah, this is maybe one thing I would say. There have been innovations in Nairobi where they say, hey, come, let's work together and reduce this problem. We can't do it alone. So 50 community-based organizations, 146 youth groups, and also there's this agency, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, the JICA, it's been involved, but from what I observed, I would call it's too little and too narrow, and to some extent it's too late for Nairobi. Yes, they've come in, but what they're doing is too little, it's too narrow, and it's too late, because when they produced their document in 1998 to say, hey, we have problems, 1998, how many years? 15 years back, 1998, we have problems in Nairobi, we need to do things right. Then they went. They only came back last year. And what they are doing, really, I'll show you. They are just, in a way, trying to support, yes, but from the way I saw it, really, it's not much. And in South Africa, we have this legislation, especially to start with, the Constitution itself, 1996. It really, in a way, speaks to that, environmental regulation and whatever. The National Environmental Management Act of 1998 as well, it's very, very articulate, it's very, very clear when it comes to issues of environmental management. Then the Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism, by 2008, they came up with that National Waste Management Act. All these, they help us really to understand the state of environmental management, especially solid waste. There are lots and lots. Let me just... Well, what is very interesting is very small, should I say, this is done at small scale, and people don't have support. And they try to have these different buckets of different colors to say, hey, if it's something that is recyclable, put in this. Something that is residue, put in this. Something that really is organic, something like that. So they know when they get to this is takataka, means waste. That's the Swahili. So by the time these youth groups come to collect, they will be knowing that this one goes straight to the disposal site. This one, they are going to be selling something like that, something like that. Then here, that's where they separate the plastics, hard plastics, soft plastics, then the metals, and this is the chairperson of this, Waruku 2 Progressive Development Youth. They are doing a commendable, really, job there. They are really doing good. There's also this is the youth group that is supported by JICA, but when I talked to these people, interacted with them, I realized that I don't know why we need some of these organizations that just come really and whatever. The capacity building they are giving even to Nairobi County, they've changed the system to count from councils to count. The support they are giving to the county itself, the support they are giving to the youth groups, really, it's not really something that one would say of we have a bright future in as far as solid waste management is concerned. This is the office, imagine, and these are the storerooms, and they say really they are being supported by a company, and they even have an office in the Nairobi County. So this is the situation we have. So if such people are being sponsored, and they are doing this, and they even bought the overalls, they bought this and all that, and about 5 wheelbarrows, and one worrying statistic in Nairobi is I think about 60% of the housing in Nairobi is informal. 60%. So the city council finds it very, very difficult really to access most of this. Then the NEMA also licenses waste transporters. To date, they have scrap metal, for those that are involved in transporting scrap metal, about 48, plastics 37, then waste paper 15. Yes, I have a colleague, like I said, who is going to talk about transportation of waste in South Africa, Rajesh. Maybe we're going to get hold of him through Skype. This is a worrying situation. This is a vehicle that is transporting waste there, and this is the situation we have here. I'm not trying to say I'm not trying really to speak on behalf of eThekwini, but it's very, very worrying. And this is not a poor, we may not say this is really a very poor country that is doing this. And considering that a lot has been happening in Kenya, we would expect something. And, you know, according to their regulations, they are not supposed to be transporting waste this way. This is the way. This is South Africa. This is Buffalo's Dry. It's well stated in their regulations that it should be covered. But this is the situation. You have waste that will be falling off this and that in the way, in the process, polluting the roads. And this is the inside. I got inside the thing, inside Dandora. This is the way. This is a designated and official dump site. And these are the roads. They say these are roads. So vehicles should pass and go and dump somewhere there. And this is the situation we have at Buffalo's Dry. Like I mentioned, that there is a new dump site that they bought from this sugarcane growing company. So they are developing this, and this is the one that is going to last for 70 years. So you see the forward planning that is there. Before the Bisasa Road landfill site is closed, before the Marian Hill one is closed, they already have this. So this is forward planning. So you wonder. So this is the situation again, and this is the manager of the dump site, Mr. I can't remember Isaac, who manages the Dandora dump site I was talking to, and this is the contractor. These are the guys who are putting all this. These are some of the pipes that will be taking wastewater and also gas with time. So they are busy preparing this in the event that these other landfill sites close. The type of equipment we would have, this is the compactor, because when waste is disposed, they need to compact it, they need to cover it. So this is what they have, yes, but, and some of these informal, there are lots of informal dumping sites in Nairobi, and this burning only is really dangerous to the environment. Besides just dumping, we're saying by merely dumping and you're not doing anything, methane gas gets emitted and it pollutes the environment. And this is I just wanted to really illustrate that there's no Weighbridge here. They just come in or whatever, and it's owned by a private individual, and he does what he feels like, something like that. Then how best can we solve some of these problems? We're saying, who wouldn't want to be in cities? Yes, there are some worrying stories, but also good news. Everyone would want to be in cities because that's where we have opportunities. So how best can we solve some of these problems we have in African cities? Because I just took this quote from UN Habitat to say the city is the home of prosperity. Everyone would want to be in a city, but faced with such challenges, really, it's very, very worrying. The city is also where ambitions, aspirations, and other material and immaterial aspects of life are realized. It is the locals at which the prospects of prosperity and individual or collective well-being can be increased. So we really need to try and find solutions to some of these problems. And here I was just referring to the Ruai side that I said it was proposed in 2006, and however there have been issues and they've failed to even to relocate this Dandora dump site. Then this is the diagram was saying we need really strong institutional capacity and stability. If you are going to move towards sustainable municipal solid waste management, some they use integrated municipal solid waste management, but I would want to use sustainable maybe because I belong to the Sustainable Development Program here in ISA. I would want to use sustainable municipal solid waste management. We would need to look at the various pillars, the various components that make up this thing and say, hey, there are in some situations or circumstances where we need really to think seriously about institutions, not just talking about economic growth, not social. Issues of governance, they come in here. So those are very, very worrying. With that,